UFC fighters that should change weight classes. That's what I want to talk about in today's video. You know, I feel like changing weight classes is something that fighters don't realize excites the fans. Like, think about how many times you were looking at guys changing weight classes and you're like, man, look at this matchup. This guy's changing weight classes. I'm excited about this. Like, anytime a fighter changes weight classes and you get like Usman versus Chimaev, to me, that was exciting because it's such a what if or such a what's going to happen, you know? And I honestly feel like UFC fighters should be more open to changing weight classes, especially the guys we're going to talk about in this video, because I have good reason for them to change weight classes, whether it be their age, their current standing in their division, or just smarter or better matchups for them in other weight divisions. So yeah, let's get right into it. I have 14 fighters in my opinion that should change weight classes, starting off with the first one, which is going to be Corey Sandhagen to 145. Listen, I feel like it's a long road for Corey Sandhagen to get back to the belt. I know some people would disagree, but just having a loss to Jan and Umar, which are two fighters I do not think he can beat in the division, is very tough, and I think he loses to O'Malley as well. Corey Sandhagen is 5'11", right? And he's nearly 33 years old. I know he looks and sounds like a dork, and he sounds like he's 25, but Corey Sandhagen will be 33 in April. Let's be real, guys. Weight cuts do not get easier as you get older. 5'11", he could 100% bulk up, put on some muscle, move up to 145, and fight a lot of exciting fights. I think there's a ton of winnable matchups at 145 for Corey Sandhagen. I think he can beat a guy like Lerone Murphy. I think he can smash a guy like Bryce Mitchell. I think he can beat a guy like Josh Emmett and avoid the big meaty hooks. So I've been thinking this for a while. I know Corey Sandhagen is considered one of the top dogs at bantamweight, but I just don't see he's never getting to the belt. And I understand 145, it might be the same issue, but he's only getting older, man. What is it going to hurt to try a new weight class and try some new matchups? And listen, if he goes to 145 and he does amazing and he's light on his feet and he's schooling everybody in the grappling and in the striking, who knows? Maybe Corey Sandhagen is a top contender at 145. Like I said, he's been at bantamweight his entire UFC career, and I don't see him getting to a title, so why not change it up, try it out? Let me know what you guys think about this one. Let's get on to the next one, Robert Whittaker to 205. Now, Robert Whittaker has talked about this recently, and a lot of people seem to think just because Robert Whittaker started off as a welterweight, the idea of him going to 205 is unfathomable. But he himself has come out and said he's not a small middleweight. Robert Whittaker walks around at like 220 pounds. 225 pounds. So it's not like he couldn't bulk up and move to 205 for some new matchups. You know, who knows? Maybe Whittaker, one of the chinniest fighters at middleweight, could have a better chin at 205. He already has losses to DDP, losses to Hamzat, 2 losses to Izzy. He's 34. He's not getting any younger. He's obviously at the tail end of his career. He's already said he wants to retire at 36. So why not move up to 205 and just try your hand at it, you know? I think he outstrikes most guys up there. And I think the grappling wouldn't be an issue because it's not like there's a lot of wrestlers at 205, you know? Sure, the knockout power could be concerning for a guy that's already chinny, but maybe Whittaker cutting less weight can take a better shot. And like I said, he's done it all. He's seen it all at middleweight. He's been a contender there for 10-plus years. He's been the champion. Why not try your hand at 205? Like, can you imagine a Robert Whittaker versus a Yuri Prohaska? A Robert Whittaker versus who else? Magomed Ankalaev, that'd be the most random matchup. Robert Whittaker, I think Robert Whittaker could school Jamal Hill in the feet. You know, way better footwork, in and out, light on his feet, fast. So, yeah, I would like to see my boy Bobby Knuckles try his hand at 205. Like I said, I think guys should just be more open to trying new weight classes. It just opens up their options so much more. Like, Robert Whittaker's limited at 205. At 185. Who does he fight? He fights Cal Barajo, potentially loses that fight too. And it's like people are going to tell him to retire. Why not try a new weight class where you might actually have a shot at bringing that lighter man skill up a weight class and dominate that division? Who knows? I like to see Bobby Knuckles at 205. A lot of people are going to disagree with this one, but yeah. Let's get on to the next one, which is Israel Adesanya. Now, Israel Adesanya at middleweight is 1-4 in his last 5. He just lost to Dricus Du Plessis. He just lost to Mavov. He lost to DDP in a title shot. He's been dominated by Strickland. So he's literally been beat by most of the top 5. And it's like, why not go to 205, you know? Because the thing about Izzy going to 205, listen, I know he's undersized and he's not the biggest 185er, but he could bulk up. And not to mention, he could chase that Alex Pereira fight at 205. We know Alex Pereira wants to get that win back versus Izzy in MMA. Alex Pereira wants to have the last win over Izzy. And you already know the UFC would build that storyline. Adesanya going up to light heavyweight after some losses at middleweight. He gets one win. Who's to say if Israel Adesanya goes up to 205, gets one good win, they don't chuck him in there against an Alex Pereira. And I think he's going to be faster than most of the light heavyweights. Like I said, there's not a lot of wrestlers at light heavyweight, so it's not like he would go up to 205 and get out wrestled and out hustled. I know that's what happened against Leon Blachowicz, but typically speaking, most guys at 205 aren't wrestlers. A lot of them are strikers. So Izzy would have a good solid shot, because like if you're fighting smaller guys in middleweights and you're getting older as Adesanya is, you're going to lose some of that speed. I feel like he could be faster than most of the light heavyweights, just given his age. And at middleweight, it's a tough climb for Adesanya, 1-4 in his last 5. So if Izzy is not going to retire, I would love to see him try his hand at 205 and just to see how he does. But this is unlikely because he would be undersized. I think whenever he fought Jan Blachowicz, he weighed in at like 201 pounds for the fight at 205. So who knows if Izzy can even bulk up to get to 205. But if he's able to, I would love to see it. I mean, hey, if he gets one win, who's to say they don't book that Pereira trilogy and then we get the whole Pereira saga again. So that'd be their 6th fight between them, I believe. So yeah, Israel Adesanya to 205, or that'd be the 5th fight between them. Let's get on to the next one. Brian Ortega to 155. Now, I made this in my last video like this. A lot of people said I was crazy for saying that Brian Ortega should go to 155. Now, the thing about Brian Ortega is he's has some losses at the top. He's a long way to the title to 145. He's already fought for the title twice, also against Max and against Volk. Not to mention, I think it's actually been rumored that him versus Gamrot's in the works, and I actually love that matchup. You have an amazing grappler and scrambler in Gamrot versus a dangerous submission artist in Brian Ortega. So if the rumor about him fighting Gamrot is true, I love this. I love guys moving up weight classes, creating new matchups. Like I said, he already has a loss to Volk. He already has a loss to Diego Lopez. He actually has a loss to Yair that he got back. But it's a long way to the top for Brian Ortega. He's already had 2 title shots at 145. He's nearly 34. The weight cuts don't get any easier. Why not try your hand at 155? I would love to see Brian Ortega get tangled up with some of these lightweights and just show his grappling prowess up there. I mean, we haven't seen Brian Ortega as, so to speak, a dangerous grappler in a long time, it seems like. And when I say dangerous grapplers, we haven't really seen him like going offensively for those submissions. Sure, he got one against Yair Rodriguez, and he got some close ones against Volk, but I think his submission against Yair is his only submission win like the last like 6 or 7 years. So maybe Brian Ortega could be more offensive and less weight drained at 155, and we could see him go for those dangerous guillotines and dangerous submissions that he goes for. So yeah, give me Brian Ortega at 155 all day long. Let's get on to the next one. Johnny Walker to 265 or heavyweight. Now, I brought this up in the last time I made this video, and people called me like, why would Johnny Walker move to heavyweight? He's going to get chinned. And my response to you would be, what does he have to lose? He's getting chinned at light heavyweight, where he's cutting a ton of weight. He's been chinned 4 times at light heavyweight. Why stay there? He's never getting to the title. He's cutting probably from 230, 240 pounds to make 205. If he moved up to heavyweight, he would be faster than like 90% of the heavyweights up there outside of like the top 5. It's literally blobs. Johnny Walker would be literally looking like Lightning McQueen in the middle of the octagon fighting these other guys. And it's like, why not try it? He's already been knocked out a bunch. Knocked out by Uzdemir, knocked out by Ankalaev, knocked out by Jamal Hill, knocked out by Corey Anderson. He's lost some decisions. It's like, I think it's time for Johnny Walker to make a career change. He's proved that he's never going to be champion or anywhere near the top at 205. Who knows? Maybe Johnny Walker has the most insane career resurgence we've ever seen at 205 or at heavyweight, and he goes through over there and he knocks out everybody, and his chin is unstoppable. Maybe he has Marvin Vettori's chin at heavyweight. We never know, but yeah. The argument that Johnny Walker shouldn't go to 265 because he's getting chinned, it's like, dude, he's already getting chinned at 205. What does he have to lose? He might as well go try his hand at heavyweight, where he's going to be faster than most of the guys up there, and he's going to be shredded too. And he's extremely athletic. He'd easily be the most athletic heavyweight, maybe outside like a John Jones or a Tom Aspinall. So, yeah, I want to see Johnny Walker move up to heavyweight. I'd love to see those matchups for him. I mean, look, it's going well for Kennedy Nzechukwu, and he's not the most amazing fighter, and he's already doing great at heavyweight. Let's get on to the next one. Aleksandar Volkanovski to 155. I've been saying it for a long time. Volkanovski looked incredible in that first fight against Makhachev, and he did get KO'd in the rematch, but that definitely wasn't the same Volkanovski. That was a fat Volkanovski off the couch, coming off of arm surgery. Let's get Aleksandar Volkanovski to finish his career at 155. I think he can beat a lot of the guys up there, and cutting less weight, 36 years old, is going to help his chin. Let's be real. The more weight you cut, the more it's going to affect your chin, as there's less cushion in your brain to cushion it whenever you're taking those shots. So if he moves up to 155, we could see him against some new opponents. Imagine Volkanovski versus like Volkanovski versus I'm drawing a blank. Versus a Charles Oliveira, Volkanovski versus Arman Sarukian, Volkanovski versus a Justin Gaethje or a Moicano or a Gamrot. You know, there's a lot of fights up there to make that Volk hasn't had. Whereas at featherweight, man, he's never getting the belt if Ilia Topuria is champion. He's not getting the belt. And who knows? Maybe he gets chinned by a Diego Lopez. Maybe he gets out grappled by a Movsar Evloev just due to the weight cut and the age. And who knows, man? Either way, I like to see aging fighters move up a weight class. I feel like it's the best move for their career if they're going to continue to fight. And we already know Volkanovski. He's the most stubborn fighter in the UFC. Ain't no way he's going to retire coming off of 2 knockout losses. So, yeah, man. I know that he's probably going to come back at featherweight, but I would love to see Volkanovski try his hand at 155. I think he can beat a lot of those top guys there. Let's get on to the next one. Rafael Fiziev to 145. Now, this is one of the interesting ones. I think he should move down. If you guys don't know, Rafael Fiziev is a smaller lightweight. I think he cuts down from maybe like 165, 170 to make lightweight. So if you ever watch his fights, look at his fight against Gaethje. He looked severely undersized. Anytime he fights anybody at lightweight, he always looks like he's the way smaller guy. And I feel like with his style, if he were to move down to 145, he could benefit from him. He'd have great takedown defense just because of how athletic and how big he would be. He could avoid the takedowns and keep it in his realm, which is the striking. And I think he outstrikes most guys at 145 outside of like maybe Volk and Topuria. He can have a field day with a lot of the strikers at 145. Just he'd be a lot better. This guy would destroy Josh Emmett on the feet. He would destroy a guy like Dan Ige, Lerone Murphy, Bryce Mitchell. He would destroy all these, Aljamain Sterling. He would destroy all these guys on the feet. And if he were cutting down the featherweight, he'd have that size advantage, or he'd be a way bigger featherweight where he could hold off the takedowns more and bring the fight into his world. And who knows, he might carry more power to 145 because as we know, Rafael Fiziev is not exactly the most powerful puncher at 155. Maybe at 145 he carries more power. Who knows? But yeah, I would love to see Rafael Fiziev take his talents to the 145-pound division and actually fight guys his size and see how he does. Let's get on to the next one, Kamaru Usman to 185. Now, first of all, if you look at Kamaru Usman's fight with Khamzat Chimaev, that was on a week's notice, and he actually looked insanely good. He avoided the submission of Khamzat Chimaev in the first round, and he outlasted him to arguably win the second and third round and secure a draw against Chimaev. And that's a short notice Kamaru Usman. What does Kamaru Usman look like on a full camp versus a Khamzat or against the rest of the division? Kamaru Usman would be a great middleweight. He would take that lighter man skill up there, probably be one of the best boxers in the division. And he's only getting older, man. His cobblestone knees at nearly 38 years old aren't going to be doing him any favors. He hasn't fought since October of 2023. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. Why not try to develop yourself in another division? I don't think he's going to get the belt back at welterweight. He's already lost twice to Leon. And it's like 3-fight losing streak. He's probably going to have to fight like a Buckley or like a Ian Gary or somebody like that and fight his way back to the title. I don't think the UFC is going to give Kamaru Usman a title shot coming off 3 losses, but you know, he could always draw the narrative, get one win at middleweight and say, oh, wait, hold up. I arguably beat Khamzat Chimaev. If he has that belt, I want my rematch. And who knows, maybe the UFC books a rematch between Kamaru Usman and Chimaev for the belt if Chimaev were to get the belt. And like I said, man, Father Time's undefeated. If these older fighters like Usman want to continue to fight, I think moving up a weight class, especially when he went up to middleweight and fought Khamzat and looked amazing as he did, could help his career and do wonders. Let's get on to the next one, where I believe Colby Covington should... And it's probably too little too late for Colby Covington. He is nearly 37 years old, but I wish he would have made this decision earlier in his career. He's obviously one of the smallest welterweights on the roster. I think Colby Covington said he walks around at like 180, 185, which is what most lightweights walk around at. I would love to see Colby Covington at lightweight. The only thing is, now that he's older, cutting weight probably wouldn't be the best idea. But hey, man, he has beef with Dustin Poirier. Who's to say Colby Covington doesn't cut to 155 to fight Poirier for Poirier's last fight? Imagine the build up in that fight. There's so much bad blood. He talked about Dustin's wife and his child and called him Louisiana swamp trash. So that would obviously be an extremely fun build up. Colby Covington's pretty much cooked at welterweight. He has 2 losses to Usman. He has a loss to Leon. Now he has a loss to Buckley. There's no shot that Colby Covington's ever getting a title shot at welterweight. I don't think he's ever getting a title shot again, period. But why not go fight that money fight? I feel like that's a money fight versus Poirier. Imagine that as like a co-main of a pay-per-view. That'd be like a great selling point. Like Colby Covington versus Dustin Poirier, long history of trash talk. They finally settled the beef for Dustin Poirier's last fight. This is a random and underrated opponent for Dustin Poirier's last fight, and a guy he hasn't fought yet. And there's history there. I know Dustin Poirier has went on record to say he would never fight Covington for money because he doesn't want Covington to make money off of him. But I would love to see it, and the fans would love to see it. So, yeah, let's see Covington cut down for that one fight against Poirier. Probably won't happen, but wishful thinking. As far as him cutting down to 155, just for his career in general, listen, Covington's nearly 37. He's never going to see a title again. So, yeah, even if he were to move to 155, I don't think he would be anything special. Let's get on to the next one, MVP to 185. Now, the more I think about this, the more maybe not, because if you think about 185, there are a lot of grapplers at the top. There's Dricus, who's a grappler. There's Hamzat, who's a grappler. There's Anthony Hernandez, who's a grappler. Brendan Allen, who's a grappler. So there are a lot of grapplers, so maybe this isn't the best move. But I don't know, man. Seeing MVP at his older age, he's going to be 38 soon in like the middle of this year. I mean, 38's father time is sneaking up on MVP as we speak. If he moved up to 185, he would easily be the fastest fighter up there, right up there with Whittaker. He looked amazing against Sharp Bullet, absolutely schooled him on the feet and made it look easy, won all 3 rounds, and I was very impressed. And I don't know, man, is it a harder battle for MVP to get to the top of welterweight or the top of middleweight? I'm not sure, but if you look at the welterweight division, can MVP beat guys like a Ian Gary, who could probably initiate the grappling? Wait, actually, Ian Gary already beat him. What am I saying? Ian Gary initiated the grappling and showed MVP levels in the grappling. And could he beat a guy like Kamaru Usman in the wrestling? Probably not. Could he beat a guy like Shavkat Rakhmonov? Probably not. Maybe, but Shavkat's probably going to take him down, even though he doesn't have the best wrestling. MVP doesn't have the best wrestling defense. You know, if he gets to the top, Bilal Muhammad would absolutely school him in the grappling. So I don't know. It's a tough one with MVP. I could see him having both routes. He really has an open career. If he wants to stay at 170 or if he wants to go up to 185, I'll tune in. His striking style is extremely entertaining, but I feel like MVP at 185 could be very entertaining and create some interesting matchups for the fans to watch. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about that one. Let's get on to the next one, which is Paulo Costa to 205. This is a no-brainer. I mean, Paulo Costa's 1-4 in his last 5 at middleweight. His last win was in 2022 against Luke Rockhold, who was aging at that point. And Paulo Costa has shown that he's just not able to get middleweight wins anymore, and he hasn't looked the same since he lost to Izzy. So why not go up to 205, where 205, in my opinion, is one of the weakest divisions in the UFC right now? Paulo Costa would fit right in up there. And honestly, I don't mind Paulo Costa being like a top 6 fighter at light heavyweight with how not great they are. He cuts a ton of weight to get to middleweight. He already fought at light heavyweight against Marvin Vettori whenever they just didn't cut weight. So I feel like Paulo Costa could put on a little bit of muscle. I think he's 6 foot tall, so he'd be a little shorter on the shorter end for light heavyweight. But guys like DC in the light heavyweight division were like 5'10", and he made it work. So I think Paulo Costa would fit right in at light heavyweight. I don't see him beating any of the top middleweights. And yeah, man, he's just taking loss after loss. So why not go up to light heavyweight where there's new matchups, a lot of winnable matchups? I mean, Paulo Costa schools Anthony Smith. I think he schools guys like, who else? I mean, Paulo Costa would give freaking Jamal Hill a good fight, dude. I don't care what anybody says. But listen, Paulo Costa up to 205 would be great. I've been saying this for a long time. A lot of people have been saying this. Paulo Costa needs to get out of the middleweight division. I don't think he beats anybody in the top 10. So, yeah, let's see him at less versus lesser competition at 205 and see how he does. Why not? Let's get on to the next one. Jailton Almeida to 205. Now, this one could be questionable, and you might be asking, why would Jailton move down whenever he's so successful at heavyweight? Because, and let me tell you why. Jailton Almeida is successful at heavyweight until, in my opinion, he fights the top guys like Tom Aspinall and like the other top guys, maybe like Alexander Volkov, that are just going to have such a size advantage over him because he's not the biggest heavyweight. I think he outweighed Sergey Spivak in his last fight, so maybe he's bulking up in heavyweight more and more. But man, can you imagine Jailton Almeida going down to 205? He would easily be the best grappler at 205. 205, the grapplers, who is there? There's Nikita Krylov, there's Anthony Smith, who's on the tail end of his career, and there's Ankalaev. Outside of that, you're looking at all strikers. Yeah, Jan Blachowicz sometimes, but he's mostly a striker. Jailton Almeida, I feel like, would ragdoll nearly every single 205er in the grappling, outside of like maybe Ankalaev and maybe Krylov. Outside of that, he ragdolls everybody in the grappling. If he went down to 205, I could easily see him getting ranked in the top 5, like pretty much immediately, especially if they gave him a shot at the top 5 of the division. I could see Jailton Almeida just doing very well, doing great against those guys. And yeah, at heavyweight, yeah, he could stay at heavyweight, but once he gets, I feel like he's already lost to Curtis Blades. I think he would lose to Tom Aspinall. He hasn't. He probably could beat a guy like Cyril Gane just with the initiating of grappling, but I think he loses to Volkov. He loses to John Jones. You know, he loses to those top guys, and I think he would just ragdoll nearly everybody at 205. Honestly, if Jailton Almeida was booked tomorrow against Alex Pereira, I like his chances, man. No disrespect to Alex, but I like Almeida's chances. So yeah, I'd like to see Jailton Almeida. Especially if he gets another loss at heavyweight, let's see him try 205 and see how it goes. Also, Jalin Turner at 170. If you guys don't know, Jalin Turner's actually already fought at 170, but listen, this guy's not getting any younger. He's going to be 30 years old soon. And the more weight you cut, the harder and harder it gets as you age. Jalin Turner is the tallest lightweight on the roster, I believe, at 6'3". Him and Joe Alvarez, both 6'3", 6'2". Cutting to 155 at 6'3", with how like jacked Jalin Turner is silly. I know he's been KO'd by Vicente Luque at welterweight back in the day, but I think he should try welterweight again. I mean, he's coming off a loss against Moicano at UFC 300 when he tried to get a highlight reel finish, but it just seems like Jalin Turner wilts and gasses out a lot at 155, and I think a lot of that can have to do with the weight cut. I do think weight cutting affects your it affects your ability to take a shot, and it can affect your gas tank to some ability. Like I said, he's 6'3". He's nearly 30 years old. He cuts a ton of weight to get to 155, and it's not even really doing him any justice because he's on a 2-fight losing streak against Dan Hooker and against Moicano. So I think he should try his hand back up to welterweight, introduce himself back to the division, and he can listen. He can grapple and beat a guy like Wonder Boy and get to the rankings almost immediately. So I know that's a random matchup, but yeah, Jalin Turner, no reason to be cutting down to 155 whenever you're 6'3". Go back up to welterweight, try a second hand at it. And yeah, man, so you don't have to be drained the rest of your career. Let's get on to the next one, which is Aleksandar Rakic to 205. Listen, I would love to see Aleksandar Rakic go up to 205. He's a massive, to heavyweight. He's a massive light heavyweight. I know I put 205 on the screen, but I meant to put Aleksandar Rakic to heavyweight. Aleksandar Rakic is on a 3-fight losing streak, and somehow he still finds himself in the top 5 of light heavyweight. Let's be real. This guy could not be further from a title shot. Just lost to Ankalaev, looked very flat in that fight. Lost to Yuri, got finished in that fight. He cuts a ton of weight. And listen, if this guy moved to heavyweight, as I said about Johnny Walker, he would easily be one of the most athletic heavyweights on the entire roster. And I think he would be instantly top 5 at heavyweight. And who knows, he might be more dangerous. Maybe he'll be more free-flowing and faster and willing to let his hands go at heavyweight, because ever since that Jimmy Manuwa knockout, that head kick knockout, Aleksandar Rakic hasn't been that same savage, you know? Sure, he finished Anthony Smith with like leg kicks, but outside of that, he hasn't really done much in the last few years at light heavyweight. I would love to see this guy go up to heavyweight and just school the blobs. This guy would have an absolute schooling blob session if he moved up to the 265-pound division. So yeah, Aleksandar Rakic, watch him in his fights. He's a massive light heavyweight. Like he's shredded to the bone at light heavyweight, which is crazy. Just goes to show you like how much weight this guy cuts to make it to 205. But yeah, let's see it. I want to see him face guys like Sergey Spivak. I think he can school Sergey Spivak. I want to see him face guys like Marcin Tybura. I think Aleksandar Rakic has a field day with Tybura on the feet, and he's big enough to avoid the takedown. So last but not least, that was it actually. Aleksandar Rakic is the last fighter on this list. That's all the fighters in the UFC. I think that should change weight divisions, or I should at least give it a shot. I understand that some of these are probably not going to happen, or most of these are probably not going to happen. And some of these you might even say don't make sense. But I feel like in general, fighters should just be more open to changing weight classes, especially if there's careers on a downslide at a weight class below. Why not introduce new matchups and create excitement for your career and for the fans if you're just losing consistently? So yeah, that's my thoughts on the fighters that should move up or down. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'm out, and peace.